I feel like as I progress through my Go journey, there is this pattern of expansion and contraction that happens. It's kind of hard to explain, but to be more concrete about it, I feel that there was periods of times when I focus a lot on the abstract, overall strategy and things like that, and then I start focusing more on the concrete and reading and Tsuji and things like that. And then I go back into the abstract. I think that is a natural development of skill because when you're improving, you kind of work on what you're weak at. Let's say you're a very strong reader, you're going to basically max out on that, and that strong reading will only take you so far if you don't learn some basic strategy for the game. And so you're going to be forced to learn some strategy eventually. And when you do that, you're going to feel like, oh, okay, I'm not really focusing too much on the reading aspect of my game. I'm focusing more on the big picture. And eventually you level that up to the max. And now you're at your full potential, or not really, because you're never really at your full potential in this game. And then you go back to realizing that you have sufficiently understood this general strategy part of the game. And you realize you can now focus more on your nitty-gritty stuff. And so I've been feeling this pattern in and out. And right now I feel very much in the general and abstract stage where I feel more like I'm focusing on the big picture stuff. Maybe it's because I've been playing mostly correspondence games and that kind of forces you to think that way more. Welcome to Start Point, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And today I want to talk to you about the story of my first ever Go tournament. This was a few years ago, and I want to just kind of go over how it went for me, the whole experience of going to a tournament for the first time. It was at the Santa Monica Go Club, and I was a Fox 4Q and an OGS 7Q at the time. And I think the ranks are still pretty much like 3 ranks apart for me, where I'm like I haven't played on Fox in a while, but last I checked I was 1 done on Fox, and then right now I'm 2Q on OGS. But at the time, I was a 7Q on OGS, and I entered the tournament as a 6Q. I think I really like this aspect of getting into AGA-rated tournaments because, like, being able to set your initial rank, I think, saves so much time. In a proper matchmaking system, like if you look at modern video game stuff, they kind of just throw you in, and you have to grind out many games to determine where you should really be placed. And it takes a while to adjust to that skill level. And in a perfect world, yeah, we would play enough games to really fine-tune our ranks. But when we enter a tournament, and like I play, a couple tournament games a year, so there's definitely not enough time for me to, imagine I started off at 30Q. And then I played a couple tournament games, I beat the 25Qs or whatever, and I somehow became like a 26Q, and next year I'm entering a 26Q again, and it would take forever for me to get to my rank. So it's great that you can start with a certain rank. So I entered myself since I was an OGS 7Q. I heard that AGA and OGS ranks were somewhat similar. I put myself as a 6Q just to challenge myself. And so this was at the Santa Monica Go Club, and it was very much like the first tournament after COVID regulations had prevented many tournaments from happening. And it was called the Decaf Cup. And it was in a little coffee shop called the Unurban. And I think that's where they have their Unurban Cafe. I think that's where they have their meetings too. But it's not like the biggest tournament venue. And I got there at 8 a.m. The tournament was supposed to be from 8 to 5. And my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, came with me. But the tournament started like 2 hours late. And the director actually made a joke about how Go tournaments never start on time. And I did not know that was a thing. So I arrived promptly on time at 8 a.m. and just waited a couple hours holding my coffee with and talking to my girlfriend. And during this like waiting time, the former president of the club came up to me very friendly and offered to help me. But he asked me what my rank was, if I knew what my rank was. When I said that I was like a 6Q, he kind of backed off, like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing. So I guess I don't need to share with you any tips. But it was very kind of him to approach me and ask. Okay, and then when we started the tournament, when the people were like kind of starting to fill up the place, and I see that this is a common theme with Go tournaments, that whatever space that you're doing the tournament in, it seems to get kind of packed. Like when I arrived at this tournament, the boards were not even set up. They were just, I was like, where are the Go boards? I see like a couple here and there because like people were playing for fun. But I'm like, what's going on? Where are the timers? Where are the Go boards? Eventually, the boxes came with all the boards and everything like that. It was a big mishmash of different quality stones and boards. A lot of ing stones and ing timers. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the initial pairings started, they started calculating the initial pairings at some point, and then everybody was crowded around. And the tournament director gave us some details, and I remember some people, some older men complaining about the rules. Because in AGA rules, it's 7.5 Komi, and I remember one man going, why 7.5 Komi? Why is it 7.5 Komi? Not understanding. And the tournament director just like, it's AGA rules. And it's an even number of Komi. I mean, I guess like it's debatable. I don't really know. I know that some pros think that the rules favor white in Chinese rules with 7.5 Komi, and that in Japanese rules they feel maybe more even. But in AGA rules, the two methods of counting are the same. But anyway, it's 7.5 Komi. And then another man was saying like, oh, why are because they gave a little performance or tournament slips. With our names and who we were paired with, and it told us on the slip who we were playing and who was playing which color, how many handicap stones there was going to be, and how much Komi there was going to be. So one man was like, why are we assigned colors instead of doing nigiri? If you don't know what nigiri is, and you may have seen this term in a sushi restaurant. It's the term for the the typical sushi that you find, the raw fish over rice. It's a little handmade piece, and that's what nigiri is. And nigiri means to grasp in Japanese. So when they form that sushi, they grasp it with their hands. And nigiri is also the term that we use to determine who is going to play which color in Go. The process goes like this. The person with the black stones, like, it doesn't really matter who does what. So whoever has the stones in front of them, black, white, doesn't matter. But the person with the black stones, the person with the white stones grabs like a handful of random stones, and then before releasing them, so they're grabbing the stones like nigiri. And then the black stone player takes either one or two stones from the bowl representing even or odd or even, respectively. So 1 stone for odd, 2 stones for even. And then they both reveal the stones that they chose. So let's say black chose 2 stones, denoting that he thinks there's an even number of white stones. And then the player counts the number of white stones and sees if it's even or odd. And then that's kind of like a little rock, paper, scissors game to get the game started, to see who plays what color. Anyway, I digress. We get to the announcement of who I'm paired with, and my worst nightmare happens, which is I'm paired with a child. I mean, nothing wrong with playing a child, but it's like, I don't know, there's something very humbling about playing a child and knowing that you are kind of matched at their skill level, and this person is like less than half your age. So, not really the opponent that I wanted, but I'm glad I played her. She was a young girl maybe like 10 to 12 years old or something like that. Um, and the time for this tournament was 45 minutes and 3 periods of 30-second byoyomi. And I didn't know what I was doing at this stage. I just kind of sat down in front of her, and she seemed like a seasoned pro. She had like this tournament shirt and everything, and we had this board and timer in front of us. I'd never used a go clock before, and I'm just kind of like sitting there like wondering what I'm supposed to do. And so I ask her, hey, do you know how to use the clock? And she doesn't say anything to me. She starts the clock and then puts a stone down, and I'm just like, what? We're starting to play now? What happened to onegai shimasu? What happened to no bow? Nothing? And then she I was just thrown into the game, and she played one quick side note before I continue. Some of these details I only remember because I kept a journal. Just keep in mind, and one of those details being that she played a 4-4 on her own side. The disrespect of this girl to play a black stone. I'm just kidding. Like, it's not a big deal. I was kind of like thrown off guard with how quickly the game started, and noticing that, not everyone follows the normal etiquette, and when you get to a tournament, don't expect everybody to follow a certain way of playing. I guess that's the only thing I would say. So we started playing, and it was like, a note about the equipment, it was terrible. It was like this plasticky board with plastic, really light, slightly undersized stones. When you put them down, they would wobble and like slide a little bit, and it's just like, it was awful. But we managed. I didn't have an actual problem with them. It just doesn't feel good. And I feel like that's really important, to have like a good set of stones to play with. Maybe that's just me. Maybe some people don't care, but I kind of didn't like that. And the timer also was kind of finicky, but we'll get to that. So I was playing her, and it was going well for me. She was quite conservative with her play. She would not hane, she would extend and play solid. She would fix, she would not cross-cut or attack or anything like that. She did invade my territory to just kind of make sure that I didn't get like a huge part of the board. But overall, I kept asking her to fight. Like, I didn't verbally say it. I used my stones to ask her to fight. And she refused. She would just back off every time. So what I would do is I'd ramp up my play, and I would get more and more aggressive, realizing she's never going to want to fight. So I just tried to take as much as I can, and she kind of let me do that. So on the board, I was well ahead in points, just because she kind of played it too safe. And when the game was kind of closing and I was starting to play endgame moves, the clock had reached byoyomi for me, and I had thought 45 minutes. I had never played a 45-minute main time game before, and I thought, this is going to be like one of those professional games where, like, when Lee Sedol goes and takes a smoke break, you get up and you walk around. Like, I thought I was going to do that. I thought I was just going to get up and go to the bathroom, walk around, stretch. But that 45 minutes, it went by fast. I did not feel at leisure. It was like a slow game, but I didn't feel like I had all the time in the world. So I got to this byoyomi period, and it's only 3 periods of 30-second byoyomi. And I kept noticing this clock. It's a talking clock. A lot of Go clocks, they talk to you. They say 10 or like 10 seconds. That's what I heard. The clock was saying 10 seconds. And I was like rushing to play my move every time. And I was terrified at going under 10 seconds, which is not really, smart. But at the same time, in a live game, you have to be moving stones onto the board and moving your hand over to stop a physical clock. It's very different from online play, where you just hover your mouse where you want to play, and you can just kind of think about all the things you want to consider. And at the very end, all you have to do is click and the stone just magically teleports onto the screen and you don't have to do anything else. And the timer, it flips to the opponent. On a real board, you got to work with these little plastic finicky stones. Make sure you put it in the right spot, move your hand over and touch the button to make sure the clock is switched. So that's why when the clock said 10 seconds, I was trying to be safe and I was playing too fast, to be honest. And another reason why I was playing especially too fast was because the 10 seconds that it was saying was that it's saying that 10 seconds had passed, not 10 seconds left. So the clock was saying 10 seconds, which means I had 20 seconds. So I had no idea that's how the clock functioned, and it was I think it was an ing timer. I don't know if anyone else has had any experience with it, but the button also was not very responsive. It's like a squishy button. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but there's clicky buttons and there's squishy buttons. The squishy kind, you don't know when you've pressed it. So you need to watch the screen to see that it's changed. And so it was a squishy button. And so even my opponent, she kept on squishing her button like multiple times after every move because she wanted to make sure she pressed it. It's just not the right design for a competitive game clock. The best design is, that I think, is the lever design that flips up and down depending on whose turn it is, so you know exactly which side needs to go, and it's a mechanical sign that one side has pressed the switch and the other side is supposed to be playing. Anyway, lots of complaints about that clock, but what was my ultimate downfall here in this game was during this whole end game sequence. Again, I was playing too fast. I wasn't even letting one Byoyomi pass me by. I was kind of just scared of that happening. And I was just playing end game move without thinking. And I self-Atari'd. This was my first tournament game, and I self-Atari'd, and it was a huge group of stones. It was like 10 stones. And I saw it immediately. And I was just kind of on the edge of my seat going, does she see it? Like, I'm just hoping she doesn't see it for whatever reason. But she puts her stone down and captures the stones. She gives me this look. She gives me this look that's like she smirks at me. That's like half apologetic and half like very happy and satisfied that she did that. And I'm just kind of shaking my head at her. I smile back and I'm like, yeah, okay. And she wipes those stones off my board, and her friends or siblings, I'm not really sure, came over to watch because they were finished their game, and they had not seen the tragedy that had occurred, and they were just commenting, "Ooh, this is a really close game. I don't really know who's winning." And the result was that I lost by 2.5 points. And since she captured like 10 stones, I was up by like 20 stones before that. Terrible, terrible blunder. So that was not a good first game to have. It was very, I will remember that forever, let's be honest. But I was having fun, it was fun, but slowly getting a little stressed. Game 2 rolls around, and the tournament director is saying it's now going to be 30 minutes main time instead of 45 minutes because they're behind schedule. And I think that's the same thing that happened in the LA Open a while back. I think they also adjusted the time so that that's when they switched to Fisher time so that we can move things along. So yeah, it seems like a common theme. Like Go tournaments seem to struggle to stay on schedule. Anyway, I didn't mind that. This next game, I was paired with someone who was weaker than me, and I know this because she received a 4-stone handicap, and I would receive 0.5 komi as white. We sit down, and I've mentioned this little side story in another episode, the goat etiquette episode. But this is when this kid next to me, he like had a water cup on my board. So I moved, or I don't know, he like moved a water cup right on my board as I was there. And I'm like, okay, I move it off. And then I'm like trying to set up my board because it's a curling board. And so I put my stones on top of the corner so it doesn't curl. And he just grabs it and does the same for his stones. And like, this is my bowl. And I'm just like, I just kind of don't comment, and I move it over a little bit so it's like at least on both of our boards, so it's solving both of our problems. But he was very unaware socially of what was going on, and then he starts bickering with his opponent. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I really hope this guy doesn't talk throughout the entire game, because that's gonna really mess me up. And luckily he didn't. So there are these little things, little annoyances that can happen. And while I was preparing for my game, Andy O'Kuhn, former president of the AGA, walked over to my board, and he was wearing this Hawaiian shirt and a straw fedora. And he picked up my game slip, read my name, Justin O. Good luck on your game. And I said, thank you. And then he left. I knew who he was. I think he thought I didn't know who he was, but it was a little bit interesting for him to just kind of do that. Anyway, we get into the game. My opponent has 4 stones ahead of me in the star points, and I'm just like, okay, let's go. I was always more comfortable facing weaker opponents with handicap versus taking handicap and trying to beat stronger opponents. I guess like, I don't know. Since my style was aggressive and I kind of try to fight a lot, I think that kind of plays to my advantage when I play against a weaker player, because they don't know how to read as well. But I remember when I started off in not just this game, but in the other games, I would use Joseki to gauge the opponent's knowledge and strength, because I think the way they respond to certain Joseki moves, it really shows you like how much you've put into the game, how much study you've had, like what you're familiar with. And you can tell instantly, like when when there's a very obvious and common clear Joseki move and they're taking a moment to think about what to do, you know that you've like reached a point where they haven't really studied the Joseki. And it's a very useful thing. That's another benefit of studying Josekis, because you have this comfortable area, these comfortable sequences that you have. And when your opponent encounters them, they may not be comfortable at all, because they don't know what it is. And they have to use their time, use their, reading skills to really focus on that. And I mean, you also have to do that too, but you have an advantage in knowing the Joseki. And I noticed my opponent this time in game 2, she had more of an online aggressive style. She would be scattering stones and cutting and things like that. I don't remember. It's been a long time, so I don't exactly remember. But she had an aggressive style. Eventually, I had a weak group, obviously, since it's like I'm trying to make something happen on a board where I am giving 4 stone handicap. But that weak group, as it was being chased around, it started making one of her groups weak, and there was some tension. There was like a capturing race. And once that happened, I had a choice where I would be like, I could either just keep harassing her weak group, or I could fix my group. If I fix my group, her group is still in danger, so she has to fix also. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I can live with that. Let me just fix my group and you can fix your group. But she didn't. She didn't fix her group. She tried to keep attacking my group. And so I kind of just eventually won that capturing race, and I was safe because I had been protecting myself, and her group had just died in the middle of the board. And it was kind of getting grim for her. She's starting to realize what's going on. And she eventually like starts playing like I remember this one etiquette thing where she put down a stone and kept her finger on it and then lifted it back up. And then I'm like, you know what? That's probably not cool, but whatever. And I just kind of, it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But if you are going to a tournament, guys and gals, if y'all are going to tournaments, don't do that. That's not really proper. Like, if you put down a stone and then pick it back up, that's kind of cheating because you're not using your mental reading skills to do that. Otherwise, why would anyone ever like just put down a stone without checking to see what it looks like first, right? It's like when you play correspondence on OGS, I'm always doing it on OGS. Because how the UI is built, it's like I can't stop myself. I know some people may be very disciplined and they never hover or they never put down a stone before playing it. But online, yeah, I can't help myself. But if you're going to a on the board tournament, you put down a stone, like you gotta commit to that. It's kind of like just the rules. And, so anyway, it was not a big deal. Like, I guess the other side of that is if someone does something that's a slightly against the rules and, they may not understand, it's, I think, more in the spirit to just kind of forgive that and move on and just try to focus on the game. It's when someone's really abusing it, then that's when the problem is. So again, I didn't mind too bad. I mean, especially since I was winning. But one comment she made. So when I'm playing these games, I'm very stone-faced. I'm poker-faced. I don't like giving my opponent any information about how I'm feeling about anything. But she made this comment, I feel like I should resign. And I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to say like what I thought about that. But in my head, all that there was Emperor Palpatine in episode 2 going, do it. And I'm just like, if you feel like you should resign, you should just resign. Just resign. And but I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet, stone-faced, just like looking at the board, keeping these thoughts to myself. And then, eventually she resigned. But it was very satisfying to kill a lot of stones, but it's probably not healthy for my game. But it was a very fun game. It lifted my spirits back up after the humiliating loss that I had in game 1. And then it was, time for game 3, the last game of the tournament. But before that, I was tending to my girlfriend, and she was starting to get cranky and hungry. Bless her heart. Thank you so much for coming to the tournament and supporting my Go hobby. But it was a long day. We were in the middle of nowhere. There was like nothing around, and I kind of spent some time with her walking around Trader Joe's, and then I sat down with her at a board and tried to teach her some shapes, just basic dead shapes. And while I was doing that, the tournament director approached us and asked her if she wanted to fill in because they had an odd number of players, and she outright rejected it. She's kind of shy, and the tournament director was kind of disappointed because he really wanted to match someone up with her, but she was not having it. So game 3, I was paired with someone more around my age. I guess the last opponent was also kind of around my age. I don't know how to tell how old people are, but he was also a Korean player, like Korean by background, and I received 2 stones of handicap. So he was a little stronger than me. So he had put himself at 4Q. And this game was quite exciting. I think naturally, the best quality game of the tournament because, well, it's the strongest player that I played at the tournament. But what happened was that he created a dragon, or I created a dragon. I don't know. I guess you collaborate in creating a dragon on the board. But I would not relent. Like, I was in this mode where, like, if something was attackable, I would always attack it. And that was a phase that I went through where I would always chase dragons and I would go all out and then basically keep this dragon in ultimate tension while leaving like my stones all around the board in a very inefficient way, in a way that if I did not catch the dragon, I would lose. So I didn't quite play that badly, because I think I eventually realized that maybe I wasn't going to kill that dragon. And so I fixed, and I was able to take points and things like that. And I had no idea who was winning. And then this is the third tournament of the day, or third game of the day. I was getting tired, and the game was very near its end. And we were playing endgame moves. And for endgame, I just kind of didn't want to think. I just played whatever endgame I saw on the board and hit the timer. And once we finished the game, that was my biggest regret of the day. Even bigger than the, well, I don't know. I guess they're equal regrets. So what happened was we counted up the score, and the points on each side was dead even. But since White had 0.5 Komi, he won over me. And I mean, he was satisfied. I was, it's very nice to get a super even score game like that. That's crazy. I liked that happened, but I was also very disappointed in myself because I had played endgame moves very carelessly. My attitude in that was that the game has been decided. I don't know who won, but, we'll see the result. Either I won or he won. These endgame moves don't matter. And I was just throwing down stones in the endgame. And that, that was a tough lesson to learn. Like, don't think that moves don't matter, right? Like, you have to put care into every stone. And you have to have the endurance to be able to do it. Because those endgame moves, like, if I had put just a little more thought and played one more move that was better for me, I would have won that game. And I didn't do that, so that's why I lost. And I deserved to lose because I didn't put that care in my stones. So I learned a lot playing this tournament. It was a long day. I was, at my limit for this. I think it was my first tournament, and I think it was kind of like a hot environment. I was kind of sweating, I think. I don't really remember, but I kind of feel like it was. But I was very happy to have gone. It was a really good experience, and it opened the door for me to attend future tournaments. So by this time, it's like 5, 6 p.m. It's getting pretty late, and we're pretty exhausted, but I stayed for the award ceremony, and it wasn't like a very official looking one. They didn't have the trophies like they did at the LA Open, but they had these kind of gimmicky little toy prizes. They had some Pokemon plushies and things like that, and it was very cute. A lot of the kids were able to get something, and then it was really great just seeing how many strong players there were, how many different walks of life there were at this Go tournament, and it was such a great experience. But it was quite hard on, not only was it hard on me, because I feel like I had to use my brain all day. People actually burn a lot of calories doing these things. But it was also hard on my girlfriend at the time. She's my fiance now. And she was pretty exhausted and, so supportive. But I took her out to Bubba Gump on the Santa Monica Pier. We had a great dinner, eating fried seafood, and I think that kind of made up for the long day that we had. And then, what I really realized after attending that tournament, it was an eye-opener for me, because I had never taken the game so seriously, or I had never known. Like, I thought I had taken the game seriously, but going to that tournament, it was a very serious and almost stressful affair, And it made me realize how much I love playing Go online at home in my PJs with nothing to really care about. I never really appreciated that before, but I was like, you know what? Like, this was a great experience, but I want to go home, or maybe not today, but, I want to go home and just relax, put on some comfortable clothing and play some random games on Fox and not even care about it. And I realized that liberty, that freedom to do that was something I really valued. I think I came to appreciate tournament play more as I attended more tournaments. But that first tournament, it was a great experience, but it was also kind of a lot for me. And I think everybody who goes to a tournament will have a different experience, but that was my experience. And now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner. And the tip of the day is get out to a tournament. I think that this is a actual very good idea to expose yourself to a tournament style of play, because it really teaches you to put care into your stones. And I think once you attend a tournament and you experience, it's silly, right? Because a tournament's not really that much, there's nothing really on the line at a tournament. It's not like we're professionals. But having that structure and that seriousness to the game really makes you kind of put more of yourself on the board. And I think it's great to experience that. And I think it does motivate you a lot to studying, taking the game more seriously, and making yourself stronger. I would say that someone who has attended a tournament is more likely to succeed than someone who has not. So that's my tip for you today for the DDK Advice Corner. And now it's time for some listener mail. I'm really excited because someone very special wrote in, Anders Kjerulf, the pioneer and creator of the SGF format. Check out episode 15 of Starpoint on Go Technology for the little section on Anders Kjerulf. And he also created the Smart Go programs, and that's why he wrote in, because I talked about Smart Go. He says, "Hello, Justin. Thanks for creating the Starpoint podcast. Very interesting. In episode 53, you talked about playing against the AI and mentioned SmartGo 1. Thanks for mentioning my app. I want to clarify a few things related to the AI in SmartGo. In SmartGo Kifu, the AI was my own creation, pre-AlphaGo. Users complained it was too weak. SmartGo 1 integrates Catago, and users complained it was too strong. And since July of this year, the integrated Catago is running much faster and includes a better neural network, so it's even stronger." Hold on, is SmartGo Kifu the SmartGo that I'm thinking of? There's an app on the iOS store, and it's just called SmartGo. And a while back, I would play against the 9x9 bot, and there was this automatic level up system that would remove a handicap stone once you beat that AI a couple times or something, and then it would keep doing that, and it would raise the strength a bit. If that's the SmartGo Kifu AI that you're talking about, that was your own creation, and people complained it was too weak, well, I struggled with it, so it was not too weak for me. It took a long time for me to wipe off all the handicap stones on that one and finally beat it. So, I mean, I guess stronger players would not find it challenging. I gave it to my down-level friend at the time, and he just kind of rolled over it, and I was like, okay, well, I got a long way to go. I can't do that right now. So, but I got to try that out. I got to see the integrated Catago on the SmartGo 1. Continuing on, to give players a better experience when playing against the AI, I added 5 different engines you could choose, from SmartGo ---- to SmartGo ++. SmartGo ++ is pure Catago, while the others make some mistakes to give you a chance. When it makes a mistake, it still chooses from moves that Catago would consider, so the moves are not completely random. When SmartGo is behind, it makes fewer mistakes, so when it's ahead, it makes more mistakes to give you a chance to catch up. Oh, that's very interesting. So during a single, if I'm understanding correctly, during a single game, the AI may be stronger or weaker depending on how you're doing. I'd have to experience that to know what that's like, but I would think, like, is that human-like for someone to, I guess, like, it could possibly simulate some human-like behaviors, but I guess AI is just a totally different beast. You can never really compare them one-to-one. Continuing on, after I added these different engines, I've stopped getting complaints about SmartGo being either too weak or too strong. Is it just right? I'd love to hear more about how people are using the AI in SmartGo 1. Thanks, Anders. Thanks again, Anders Kierulf, legend, for writing into Starpoint. That's really cool to get a listener mail from you. And so, to the Starpoint listeners, go ahead and check out the AI in SmartGo 1 and tell Anders Kierulf whether the AI is a good level. I'm going to go check it out and see for myself. Thanks again, Anders Kierulf, for writing in. Sanguinarian Phoenix writes, I have played 3 games against humans in the last 30 days. The rest were against bots, and here is why I prefer bots. Ooh, okay, so this is in response to Tin. Tin has a friend here in Sanguinarian Phoenix, and Sanguinarian Phoenix's reasons for playing against bots. No stress, no ego investment. If I lose, it's meaningless. Unlimited undos. You don't have to let one mistake cost you the game. You can start late or end early. You can type BRB 30 minutes and go have lunch. That's so funny. Why are you typing BRB 30 minutes to a bot? Anyway, and when you return and play your next move, the bot responds again within 5 seconds and finishes playing the game normally, as if you've never left. Most importantly, losing a close game or losing stupidly, such as a massive endgame blunder, oh man, how relevant of you to say massive endgame blunder in this episode, won't put you in a bad mood for 4 hours and make you do nothing productive the rest of the day or make you unable to enjoy the rest of your evening, as happens to me more often than I'm proud to admit versus human opponents. Sad face. Oh, yeah, that's you know, it's not great when Go makes you feel like that. I mean, it's supposed to be a game where we enjoy and find the beauty and you know, enrich our lives with. And so when it kind of depresses us, it's like, is it really something worth doing? But on the flip side, it's like those difficult emotions is part of what makes the game beautiful because it forces you to work through them. A lot of your points here, I think, like, I understand the appeal of playing against bots in that way. I think I agree, like, you can just play, like, there's no reason to, like, get caught up in it, and it's just, like, it's so convenient. You don't have to match yourself to anybody else's time, but kind of an antithesis to what I'm saying in this episode is, like, going to a tournament against human players is, like, probably the most stressful thing you could do. And I feel like that imbues the game with a lot more care and meaning versus playing hundreds of bot games that you could just throw away. You could maybe start getting dull because you're not taking the game as seriously. But I think it could, if you're using it in a smart way where you're not going to a place where your brain is kind of rotting through playing this AI and you're kind of like losing your edge here and you're using it more conscientiously and you're kind of making sure that you're putting thought into your moves and you know what you're doing, then I think I mean, I've honestly seeing these kind of comments, it's kind of made me wonder, like, hey, should I go boot up Just Go and start playing some more of that? Because I think I might, and I'm also going to check out the SmartGo one, so I might actually give it a shot. So inspired by Tin and a couple of commenters here, I think I might go and see how the AI treats me. One thing I know that I didn't like about AI is that they respond in such a consistent manner. I think it would be more interesting if the AI actually thought for periods of time and like responded quickly at certain points. That kind of dynamic timing would, I think, make it a lot more interesting. The fact that the AI just kind of responds right after you play or move, I think that's something that really irks me as a player, and it kind of encourages bad habits. I'm rambling a lot. Thanks for writing in, Sanguinarian Phoenix. Cantor Set writes, enjoying the interview portions of the show. Tin's development into a more solid attacking player reminded me that I was reading the second chapter of Attack and Defense recently. There's a story about a player who only cares about killing, who destroyed lower ranked players, but would fall apart against stronger opponents because his attacks were never sound, and I realized, this is me. Was a good thing to finally admit. Smiley face. Thanks for writing in, Cantor Set, and that's actually like so spot on. It's kind of creepy how these listener mails are so relevant to what I talked about today, because that's exactly the stage I was at in the tournament. Because the reason I won my second game with a landslide was because my opponent was weaker than me, and she let me attack her like to death, and then I lost to the stronger player because I was not attacking in the right way. And so that's a very good lesson to learn. Thanks for writing in. And then Mr. Tusef, aka Martin, writes, so let me put on my nerd glasses. The thing about ELO varies between different systems, but in all cases, the difference in ELO represents the probability of winning. It is some kind of exponential distribution. On Wikipedia, on the Go Ranks and Ratings page, they describe the difference between EGF and AGA ELO. In AGA, an ELO difference of, say, 100 always gives you the same winning probability. In EGF, it depends on the rank of the players too. However, if your ELO increases by 100 in EGF, your rank increases by 1 stone. In AGA, this is not correct. Putting my nerd glasses off, as always, a great episode. I enjoyed your podcast. Greetings from Austria, Martin. Thanks again for writing in, Martin. I don't think you need to take your nerd glasses off. I think you should keep them on. I think it's cool to be a nerd. But I didn't know there was a difference between AGA ELO and like regular ELO. Or, oh, it's EGF and AGA ELO that you're saying. I think there's like a different scaling thing. One thing that I've thought about with Go Ranks is that it's so like exponential, and in the scaling like of the levels. Like when you go higher and higher in rank, like the Q and Dawn ranks, each rank becomes more and more difficult, and it's like the difference between a Dawn player and one Q player is so much more vast than a 25 and a 26 Q player. Those are like essentially the same. It's kind of an interesting thing. I know that ELO calculations can get very, very complicated, and I'm not going to say I understand it all, but very interesting to know that AGA and EGF have different ELO calculations. I'd love to know more about that. Thanks for writing in, Martin. My boy writes, I don't enjoy playing against AI. If Go is a conversation, it's not a very good one. Excited to have a guest on as always. Thanks for writing in. Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I'm with you with the not enjoying playing against AI. So but I'm gonna give it another shot. Like I said, I'm gonna go play some bots and see if I feel any different. Thanks for writing in. And Plixik writes, I play AI quite a bit, and my favorite is AI Sensei's human-like bot because it plays very normal moves, in my opinion, and you can easily jump right into a review. AI is great to drill openings and Joseki variations because it doesn't fail to punish your mistakes when set to a high level. Once you mess something up, you can just resign, review, and try again. Humans can't correctly punish you every time, tell you what you should have played, and won't do it 20 times in a row whenever you feel like it. It's definitely important to play humans too, but AI is way more efficient for this kind of training. Thanks for writing in, Plixik. I guess every comment like this is just convincing me more and more to try some AI training. It's definitely convenient. It's like having a friend who's just sitting there, like in the corner of your room, ready to play Go whenever you want. That's really what like having AI is, and I can see why people play AI. So thanks for writing in again, Plixik. And our last listener mail, Huang Xin Gang says, I went to MVGC several times in the summer. It's much fun to play with humans than with AI. Thanks for writing in. I don't unfortunately know what MVGC is. I'm assuming it's some kind of Go gathering thing. And you know what? I feel like even the people who play a lot of AI, will also admit that it's more fun to play against humans. I think it's that there's a lot of convenience factor to the AI and things like that. And there's these other side benefits, but ultimately, Go is about the human interaction, in my opinion. And I thank all of you for writing in. If you want to write in for a future episode, the question of the week is, what was your first live tournament like? Or what was your first live game like? If you played a lot of online games and then you played like a live game for the first time, do you have any interesting stories about that? Or if you have never played a live game or you've never gone to a tournament, why haven't you? Like, what are your hangups? If you don't have the opportunity, or is there a reason why you're just not seeking that out? Let me know in the comments on YouTube or the Reddit post for this episode, or you can email me directly at starpointbaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. If you're a podcast listener, a review and a rating would also help. A very special thank you to Jeffrey H. and James B. for supporting Starpoint. You know what happened? A pirate was captured. A pirate was captured. This is a true story. While trying to commandeer a ship, while invading, or he was invading another ship and he was captured. And the enemy pirate, the one on the other ship, took him as a hostage and said, "You know what? I need to punish you for coming aboard this ship. Do you want to keep your right foot or your left foot?" And then the pirate said, "I want my right foot, me right foot." And then the pirate said, "Then I'll take your left foot," and chopped his left foot off. And then he said, "Do you want to keep your right hand or your left hand?" And then the pirate responded, "I'd want to keep my left hand." And then he said, "Then I'm going to take your right hand," and he chopped his right hand off. And then he said, "Now, do you want to keep your right eye or your left eye?" And then the pirate responded, "I'm not going to choose." And then the other pirate said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Either way, it's me eye. It's me eye. It's me eye." Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.